Hi, folks. I'm Herb Stevenson. Um, this is Natural Passages Revealing the Unmarked Doors of Life. Um, I've thought a lot of it because conversations I've been having with clients pretty much around the world right now is one of the things a lot of people are struggling with is their work-life quality. And I've probably talked about this in the past, but I think the timing of it now is a little better because over the years people have talked about work-life balance, and there is no such thing. Um, that's an illusion. It's work-life quality, and work-life quality means how you define and measure your life. And in today's environment, it's easy to get lost in either the fear factors or shiny objects. And so I want to talk about it because this is something that over the years, especially when I've been was doing a lot of executive leadership training, this would be the one that had the most impact on people because it um, comes to the core of who do you want to be and how do you want to be in the world. So some years ago, Clay Christensen has passed since then, Harvard professor, wrote some really beautiful work on quality of life. And his comment, one of the quotes that I have never forgot is he was talking about an individual who had come with a question. And he said, instead of telling him what to think, I told him how to think. And then he reached what I felt was the correct decision on his own. Work-life quality is a what, but work-life balance is actually how to think about your life. And there is no way to balance, so to speak, but you can improve the quality of what you do and how you go about doing it. And so it's one of those things that it really comes down to how are you going to assume responsibility for yourself? So a concept to think about self-leadership um, is the most noble of practices if it's practiced well. And what does that mean? It means that what you're doing is really defining who you are, how you are, finding a purpose in life that's significant to you, and it's really taking the time to think about it. So I'll give an example myself. In my younger years, but through my 20s and 30s, probably partially 40s, it was like how to address for success, how to speak for success. Um, these are all sorts of things that you were supposed to develop and in order to fit in and conform and buy into the white picket fence and what the terms of success were. At about that time, my early 40s, I started recognizing that um, working for just this idea of success wasn't going to fit for me. It was a hollowness to it. So I'd been very successful as a consultant, and but I realized I'd neglected a lot of things myself, my own development in terms of not just work, but also just as a human being, and also how did I want to be in the world with other people, and that became a driving force. And so my consulting practice, actually everything that I do in life, is based on a concept that I call supporting others to more fully be themselves, whether it's in an organization or an executive. So my wide range of processes that I do focuses completely on that process. So in one sense, it basically means that you're beginning to start making more conscious choices, not just the choice based on what you've been told you're supposed to be, but choices based on who you really want to be. So by making conscious choices about which opportunities to pursue rather than simply following the road of least resistance, leaders, professionals, and the individual can and do meaningfully engage with family, work, community uh, on a more, let's just say, enriching process. It's about maintaining an effective self-care for yourself. Uh, Over the years, one of the things that I was taught originally as I explored Native American heritage was if you don't take care of yourself, eventually you'll have nothing to be able to support anybody else. In other words, work-life quality is about how do I manage that balance between myself and others and not just fall into the trap of running around chasing achievement. So one of the things that occurred out of that is deliberate choices actually leads to more satisfaction. Instead of out of reaction, do this, I'm doing it out of a more focused and effective way to make deliberate choices about which opportunities to pursue at home or at work. And what that basically means is you determine the quality of your life. And if you fall in the trap is, well, I'm doing the best I can because this is what I'm supposed to do, you're really not paying attention to deliberate choices about who you are and does this really make you happy? And a lot of people sit back and look at that and say, well, what do you mean by that? And I ask the question, what do you want? What do you want your life to look like? What do you want from home, your family, your kids, your work? What do you want? I'm not talking dollars and cents. I'm talking about satisfaction, accomplishment. Another way of looking at this is the reason the bucket list movie became so famous is how many people get to the end of their life and suddenly realize they had not done the majority of the things they really wanted to do. They had given them up. And so then the movie came out um, and basically said it's okay to do what you want to do, that which will make your life satisfying, complete, so that you feel better. So the idea then is creating a satisfying life, whether it be home or work, is by being fully present, relational, and engaged. Interestingly, it creates a deep sense of freedom and individualism. I mean, you actually know who you are. You're not chasing some role or some image about yourself. Because you are engaged, you find new challenges at work and home to share. And you literally share, you engage people in a relational point because without relationship, you can't actually create work-life quality. So by pursuing this, the idea of staying fully engaged, a sense of security at home and at work by being engaged and therefore knowing where you stand with family and company is one of the basic benefits. You create opportunities to learn and progress for yourself and your fellow workers. So one of the things that's been my success is some of the things I've done that I looked at is how do I invest in myself? I One of the things I still do, I read a lot. Uh, Keeping my mind active, it gives me a lot of satisfaction, and the impact of that is it keeps me alert to things that I may not have been able to look at otherwise. And so I have a wide range of interests. And the other thing I look at is am I attending to the things that are important to me? And I decide that. So if I'm actually doing that, trying to do that, I end up feeling much better about myself. And I find that it works better. So let me give you an example. Uh, Through hard work, prospering in your career is a matter of carefully and consciously combining work and home by vigilantly endeavoring to get both family and work their due year after year after year. And what that basically means is a whole lot of people, and I grew up in an environment of this same type of issue. Um, Work hard. I worked a lot of long hours. To be successful as an independent businessman, you often work 80 hours a week. And but at the end of the day, when I realized I really wasn't attending to things, it cost me my first marriage. I thought I was doing what I was supposed to do, work hard, provide, and then check out. And some of you have heard this over the years that I've talked about this is one of the ways to prevent that from happening is every time you go home, your wife, your spouse, and your kids, and even your animals. It's interesting, animals are the same thing. We're very good at this, but we make eye contact and we stop and take a breath. And making eye contact is actually see them, not sort of glance at them and talk about. You just see them for a moment of silence. And what ends up happening is you start building an engagement again, the energetic spark that like you may have had when your children were born, an energetic spark that happened when you got with your spouse. So you have to manage both. And you have to make a conscious decision of how do you want to do that. And making excuses doesn't work. And I'll elaborate on that a little bit more. Yeah. But work life in a nutshell basically is we have our work, we find our what we need, career, job, so on. And our relationship at home takes a lot more of our time when we're younger, and we really invest in it. But as we get a little older, what we end up doing is we start losing whatever our passion was for our work, and also our unconditional love for our partner. And so the question is if I'm taking care of myself and I'm attending to those important to me in my life, what ends up happening is you begin to reconnect. And the interesting part is you'll start feeling like you're more yourself. A good portion of people end up struggling because they spend most of the time in their head thinking. And I like to refer to that as a head dragging a body behind it. No one's home in the body. They're worried about work or all these various other things. And but when we take the time to sit down and say, what's really important? What's my purpose? And I don't care if it's my purpose about work, a purpose with my family, but it has to resonate with you in terms of a sense of it actually feels heartfelt. And one of the ways to help you understand the importance of this is two things that you can never recover and use again is time and energy. Once you spend it, it's forever gone. And the number of people that I've worked with that look at the situation of saying, the same as my father. My father worked, I'm a workaholic like he was. Um, Later in his life, we were sitting talking, and he said, I didn't know I had a choice. And what he was referring to is he didn't know he had a choice to not work so much, to be gone all the time. And I realized that conversation later in my own life that I was creating the exact same thing. And so the question comes down to is are you going to tend to what's really important to you? And more importantly, did you even bother to define what that is? So often I point out to people is it's interesting. I ask people to do small things, 5 minutes of sitting in meditation, which is to regenerate, and they struggle with that. They feel guilty. Take the time to read, think, reflect. Is often considered a difficult thing and that they are unable to process. So if you take the time to figure out your life purpose, you'll look back on the most important thing you ever discovered, which is yourself. And when you start doing that and giving yourself more credit, the impact of it is you begin to feel better. So in this process of work-life quality, you must define what success means to you in terms of family, friends, work, and it shouldn't be just material things. It should be relational. And then how you choose to allocate your time and energy towards each of them is really important because that gives you the discipline to know to move forward. So your conscious decisions about allocating personal time, energy, and talent ultimately shape your life's strategy, not your work strategy. Otherwise, you suddenly wake up one day wondering where time went along with any dreams that you had that you let go of. So if we look at it that way, conscious choice is actually living. Unconscious choice is not living, it's doing. So it's a choice that you have to decide what do you want to do. And one of the things that where we get into trouble is called the marginal cost doctrine. Instead of choosing and setting boundaries and holding yourself to a process, uh, example would be some in your mind saying, look, I know that as a general rule, I need to spend time with family, but in particular extenuating circumstances, in this particular circumstance, just this once, it's okay, which means it'll happen again and again and again. So the marginal cost of breaking your own rules just this once always is alluring, and it becomes a norm. So staying longer at work becomes an excuse for not going home, and we don't even realize it. So living by your own principles basically comes down to is five things you need to pay attention to. What's work, what's your spiritual process, your friends, your family, and your health, and how do you want to do that? And if you begin to look at those as major principles, how am I going to commit to myself? And I often refer to them as guiding principles. It begins to help you because you set boundaries about who you actually are, and you're taking credit for the self-definition. So, why is this important? I work with a lot of executives over time, and when I go over this part of work-life quality, it's been more than once that somebody says that the norm is everybody works a lot of extra hours. The stress is immense. And one day they walk in, and one of the persons who stayed late on a repetitive basis, was sitting at the desk and had a heart attack and died. We all like to say, well, that's never going to happen to me. The truth is, that's not our choice. So, rewarding relationships by far the most common element of personal success for both men and women. However, men see it as only as if having a career and family, whereas women describe what it means most to have as a good family. What do you want to define? You can have both. Spending the time to focus on what you really love to do and how to go about doing it is a critical process. And it's just interesting how we don't really do it. So, just to reiterate, there is no such thing as a work-life balance for executives, professionals, or anybody. There is work-life effectiveness, which is quality. So besides money, position, and privilege, remember that your work is not your life. It's a major part of life, just as family, relationships, clear purpose of why you chose this career. Nurture all of your life, and it will nurture you during all of your challenges. I hope you really look at it because we're in actually chaotic times. And if we can begin to actually balance ourselves and look at what is most important for us, the impact of it is we can actually live the life we want. I'm Herb Stevenson. This is Natural Passages, revealing unmarked doors of life, and I wish you a good day. Thank you.